You see, we are created in a magnificent vibration, in an absolutely magnificent vibration. Born risk takers. Free. That conditioning takes place after birth. You can change it. It takes guts. It takes goals. Do you know something? You're sitting there watching this and you're thinking, my God, I'm going to change something. I always say, keep reminding yourself that you have tremendous reservoirs of potential within you, and therefore you are quite capable of doing anything you set your mind to. You really can. I don't care what the cynics tell you. Quit listening to some of your peers. Now all you must do is figure out how you can do it, not whether you can or not. When are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? You've got to create a sense of urgency. I'm going to do it right now.
If you can see it, you can do it. But the beautiful truth is you can do anything. We got to know there is a place. There is a specific frequency. And if you get on that frequency, you're going to attract what you need to you. This is what it's all about. Why have you been endowed with such awesome powers? If you'll make a committed decision, this I'm going to do. And you don't have to know how. You do not have to know how. The second you make the committed decision, you flip your brain onto the frequency that you have to be on to attract what you have to attract to manifest the thing that you want. If you can see it, you can do it. It's got to be something you want. Wants come from inside. Act like you're already there. Walk, talk, speak, live like you're already there. Don't set a small goal. Don't set something that doesn't really wind your stem. Set it so big it jazzes you. It really gets you going. When something of a very high nature resonates with the very high side of you, you'll know it. You'll know it. You will feel it. Feeling is conscious awareness of vibration. The only prerequisite, do you want it? Not do you need it, not could you do it. The only prerequisite is, do you want it? Take the lid off your marvelous mind and dream. For goodness sake, give yourself the right to do that. Get your analytical mind out of the way. Put it in your pocket for a while. All you're doing is exploring, daydreaming. What did Lawrence say? All men dream, but not equally. Those who dream by night in the dusty recesses of their mind waken the day to find that it was vanity. But the dreamers of the day are dangerous men, for they may act their dream with open eyes to make it possible. This I did.
Hey everybody, good morning, good day. Joey, my good friend, Joey Maka Unga, $1 Million Difference Maker, joining me all the way from Sydney, Australia. And of course, look, this is Freedom, Health and Lifestyle, Personal Development with a Business Plan, episode 137. And we're going to kind of get into discipline and persistence and how these two things are two engines for success, right? And they go together, hand in hand. And of course, look, it's all about thinking and doing better. We all want better, right? That's what we all want. I don't think anybody can deny that. It doesn't matter whether you want a better job, whether you want better health, better fitness. It doesn't matter. We all want something better. I think that's what we're all here for, to get better. You can be grateful for what you've got, but it doesn't mean you have to settle for it. And of course, look, like, subscribe, share, click that notification button. You'll learn when we're on, usually around about the same time every week. And of course, I'm here with my good friend, Joey, the $1 Million Difference Maker, Maka Unga. And of course, Joey, say hello.
Hey, good day, Mike. Good day, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful day, wonderful weekend also. So happy, so grateful to be here to add value and also, share something that we all learn. I think what I learned when I spoke to people, have a conversation with people, it's all work in two ways. Like we learn something from the people we communicate with and the people that we come in contact with. And my hope is they will learn something. And especially tonight, our hope and wish for the people who are watching our program and follow us, that one day they will be able to pay it forward what they learn and share in our program. So Mike, looking forward to.
Now, don't forget, you can go and see Joey at an event on May 2nd, the Elevate event in Sydney. Click the QR code. You can buy a ticket. Go and see him. So if you're in Australia or if you're in Sydney, particularly, go and check him out. He's one of the speakers there at the Elevate extravaganza. You know, where better living meets bigger opportunity. I love it. That's what we want, right? That's what we want. And of course, Joey, you can also find Joey here on his business website. You can see it's Joey's because it says his name at the top of the page. And of course, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's a beautiful contact form down here. All you need to do is put in your name, email, telephone number, best time to call, press submit, and Joey will reach back and get in touch and let you know what he's doing and how you can get involved too, if that's something that you want to do. Let me see. Joe, obviously today we're going to get into this discipline and persistence. And I've got a couple of little videos. You know, like one of the things we were talking about last week, we were talking about, and that book came up, Psycho-Cybernetics, and about how, you know, you want to stay on course. And you were talking about, you know, that laser guided missile, and how, yes, the missile comes off target every now and again, but the laser brings it back, that laser focused. So I've got a few little clips that we can watch from a few little shorts about psycho-cybernetics and the importance of it, right? And so we'll just watch these and then we'll get your thoughts on it, all right?
Yep.
Okay.
In Psycho-Cybernetics.
If you want to,
Have you read Psycho-Cybernetics?
I haven't, no.
In Psycho-Cybernetics, it talks about how the mind accepts or rejects information to aid in the achievement of a goal. So if you're set on building one specific project and that's all that's on your mind, that's your identity, then your mind is going to notice and pick up and spring up ideas for you to achieve that thing. So I think it's less about like streamlining the system and more about optimizing the flow of information and ideas in your own head, so that you can catch the right ones out of the river so it impacts the system that much better. Have you read Psycho-Cybernetics?
if you want to manifest anything that your heart desires, here's how Psycho-Cybernetics says to do it. Listen. Hold a picture of yourself long and steadily enough in your mind's eye, and you will be drawn toward it. Picture yourself vividly as defeated, and that alone will make victory impossible. Picture yourself vividly as winning, and that alone will contribute immeasurably to success. Great living starts with a picture held in your imagination of what you would like to do or be. If you want,
we don't know how strong we are until we have to be strong. And so we're not taught in school resiliency. We're not taught how to handle rejection. That's why so many kids are committing suicide, being bullied, because they have a limited, weak sense of self. Dr. Martin Seligman, who wrote the book called Psycho-Cybernetics, who discovered self-image, that we need to have a curriculum that builds a person's sense of identity. Once your life has a sense of identity, that gives your life a sense of purpose. And once your life has a sense of purpose, it gives your life a sense of direction. You don't know.
So, Joe, like that, there's no doubt that Psycho-Cybernetics is probably one of the best self-help books ever written. Do you know what I mean? Back in the 1960s, I think it was. And lots of people, especially athletes and sports people, you know, went on to use this book, you know, to create that winning image in their mind. You know, like you see it now with rugby players, especially kick takers. Do you know what I mean? Where they're standing in front of the goal and they're looking at the goal and their head down, and then you can see that they're visualizing. They're visualizing themselves striking the ball. They're visualizing the ball going through through what do you call the posts, right? So, you know, having that imagination, that visualization, that winning image. And we'll get onto another video by Bob Proctor where he gets into the winning image. What are your thoughts on it, on this self-image thing? You know, because that's where it starts from. You know, if you think you can or if you think you can't, you're right. Do you know what I mean? You know. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I came across this book when I studied under Bob Proctor, and to be honest with you, I read the book and it spin my head because it's the first time, you know, I'm reading a book about self-image, and I think I should read the book more often, like repetition. But I think just to keep it simple for our audience, this book is the great discovery about self-image, and Bob talk about winning image. You know, if you see yourself as a winning person, you know, you will attract, you know, winning result in your life. If you see yourself as a failure, and you tell yourself that lie every day, it will unfortunately will become.
I've lost your sound there, Joe.
Yeah, so you know, that's my simple takeaway about the Psycho-Cybernetics. I think psycho is about the mind. Cybernetic is about something about image, you know. And you know, for me, when you really discover yourself and have the self-awareness of who you are, I think that's why a lot of people ignore or quit listening to their peers and their friends, and because they knew they have the ability, they have the gift, the talent, the gift, you know, the potential to achieve whatever they desire or whatever they put their mind into. And you know, it's the creating images is nothing that we learn from school. We learn that outside of school. And you know, in school they just teach you how to learn to read, to count, and collecting information, but they don't teach you how, like Les Brown emphasized, they don't teach you how to you know, to face rejection in life, how to be resilient, how to be disciplined. You know, all they do is just to make sure that you're doing the right thing, and doing the right thing, you know, that, and if we fail to do the right things, we don't pass the test. You know, they told us to go back and repeat it, you know, because they want you to memorize it, to know it by heart, but don't understand it. So, you know, Psycho-Cybernetic is when you understand who you really are. You know, it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not something that you stand in front of the mirror and you said, "Hey, I am Mike. I am Joey." No, it takes time. You know, it takes a discipline, a persistence, because one day you don't want to see the mirror. You don't like the image you see in the mirror. You know, but you have to prove yourself, or tell the world that this, you know, I'm a better person than this person that I'm looking at the mirror. You know, you know, that's my takeaway.
To be honest, it's interesting that you said something which jumped out at me there. You know, who you are, and it made me think. You know, well, you know, who you are versus what you are. You know, like, and there's a video of Bob Proctor where he's talking about, you know, if you were just to sit down and, you know, like, you know, think who are you? You know, well, you know, like Bob Proctor is just a name given to me by my parents. You know, who are you? Do you know what I mean? You know, like you got to ask yourself that question: who are you? And then it's who do you want to become? You know, like, you know, so like it is a journey. There's no doubt about it. You've got to accept where you're at, but you can always work your way out of it. You know, whatever situation you find yourself in, you can work your way out of it. But it starts by thinking about it, and that's like, to be honest, if I'm broke, you know, that's what I am. I'm broke, you know. But if I don't want to be broke, I have to change my mindset, don't I? Of one of, you know, abundance, you know, and this is what that first little video was talking about, where the guy's talking about, Cyber-cybernetics, in a sense, is how you can reprogram your brain to think as the person that you want to become. Think as that person you want to become, so that you can see the opportunities. You can see those doors opening. You can see those little things. And then again, this gets into what we were talking about last week when we were talking about, the mind, and the antenna and everything else, and how that energy is always flowing to and through you, and you get to reject or accept those things that you want. And when you think about it like that, if you're acting as the person that you are or you want to become, well then, and if you're being aware to that energy flowing to and through you, and you can consciously reject the information, the bad crap and everything else like this, even though in reality, those bills might be coming through the door and you can't afford to pay them or whatever else. But, if you're focused on that, that's all you're going to see. But when really what you want to do is be focused on the other stuff, the good stuff, the stuff that's going to move you in that direction that you want to go in, to be able to take care of this stuff that you're already dealing with. Like you can accept, who you are and where you are. You can accept it. You've got to accept the situation that you're in. But then this is where this discipline and persistence comes in. You talk about this before, Joye. You've got to be disciplined. You've got to make that committed decision, and then be disciplined to stick with it once the motivation or the energy is worn off. Do you know what I mean? From making that decision, you got to then, and that's where that discipline and persistence kicks in. So listen, let's just watch this video about, that Bob talks about with the winning image, and then we'll get back to it, right?
Are aware of a certain place within. It's referred to as the higher self. And in this higher self, there's an image of perfection, which is forever attempting to express itself in a greater way. When the winner wants to turn their dreams into physical realities, they call on this higher self. And they set about and change the world, not just for themselves, but for everyone in it.
Like we were watching that winner's image video a couple of weeks back, and we didn't get through all of it, but the second part that really gets into that image of the mind and the body. It's fascinating stuff. But this higher self, Joey, how do you tap into that higher self?
Good question, Mike. And I think everyone can have their own different opinion on it. In my experience, is first coming from my belief, my faith. When I understand I'm a spiritual being living in a physical body, and I come from somewhere, and when I die, I have to go back somewhere. But when I understand that, there's a hymn that I really like. It was written by a writer or a songwriter, and is in the Wesleyan hymn, which is come from the Methodists. And the person who started Methodist is the Wesleyan Wesley brother. I forgot the name of the actual person that started, but their last name is is Wesley. So anyway, the hymn is that when you have God, you have everything. And I think when I accept that idea that I'm come from a greater, universal, or infinity power, I start to realize that I'm not alone. When I have something big in me, I have something greater in me, because I come from someone is greater than everything that I have in life. And the hymn is that when you have God, you have everything. And I think for me, that's how I develop myself in a higher level. And when I still have my doubt, I still have my setback, and sometimes I call it sliding back. You're going up on the hill, and you step back, you kind of like slide back. But in my mind, I know that I can do and achieve what I want to achieve in life, because I have someone with me that is greater than anything that I linear on to it. So that's how I develop that image in me, because when I see that, I say, you know, and I do that when I pray, and I said, God, you have created me to be a good ambassador, you know, a winning image of you. And everywhere I go, you want me to bless that place, bless that organization, bless that business, because you have given me the authority and the gift and the talent and the skill and the power to overcome, you know, the hardship, the challenge, the adversity of anything I do, because I'm not by myself. I'm with you all the time. And I think for me, that's how I think if I go back, it's come from my faith and also my experience in life. You know, the places I went, you know, including the army, you know, the organization I joined, the volunteers. It's all good. The school I went to, it was a boarding school. You know, I look back, everything worked for the good of people that have faith. And that's how I live my life. You know, I know people are good, and everything. And if you're a good person, you have the right attitude toward the world and others, something will work in your way, because you attract good things in your life. You want to be a good person. You want to do more, be more, and give more, or bless more people on your journey. So that's how I see myself. And in you know, and I still a human being. I still have my challenge. I still have my doubt and setback and slide back. But at the same time, I know I can be better, because I have something greater in me to give. I have something more in me to share with the world.
That's Joey. You know, you're saying some really interesting stuff there. You know, and just you know, when you first started talking, the first thing that popped into my mind, because I was asking about how do you tap into that higher self, and sometimes, you know, obviously there's a story that you talk about where clearly you were tapped into your higher self, whether you knew you were or not. You know, you were tapped into it, and that was when you were deciding to join the army. And you know, up until that time, you know, when you were younger and you were saying things to yourself like, oh, you know, I couldn't get into the army, I'm not big enough, you know, I'm not as big as my brothers and stuff like this and all this kind of stuff. And then, you know, obviously something changed, and what changed was a committed decision. Do you know what I mean? You made a committed decision. But I'm sure that, you know, through that, before that change, there was some kind of turmoil where you were, you know, going backwards and forwards in your mind. You talk about prayer, you know, in the understanding, and maybe you didn't understand this back then, you know, you're that spiritual being in this physical body, and the way that you can tap into that higher self is through prayer. And whether you want to call prayer meditation or whatever it is. It's just another way of tapping into that greater consciousness, that higher level, right? And I'm looking here at, you know, you were talking about Wesley Brothers Methodist, you know, evangelist or whatever it is, and one of their things is daily devotion. You know, that daily devotion, 21 days of praying, right? 21 days of meditation, if you like. Doesn't matter I don't care what anybody calls it, right? So if you were kind of sitting there, and look, when you think back, and you can tell me whether this is true, but maybe there was 2 or 3 weeks before you actually made that decision where you were thinking, okay, I'm going to join the army. No, I'm not. Yeah, I am. No, you know, you could have been going backwards and forwards. And then you're praying, saying, God, please help me make a decision on this, whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? You know, and you're probably seeing yourself, you probably, you know, all these questions, then you make that committed decision, and then you lock into that higher self. There's no places for you on the plane, but you've made the committed decision, and you've seen the future. Do you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, you know, you're on the plane. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. The seat opens up, you're there. You know, so whether you want to call it prayer, whether you want to call it meditation, visualization, or whatever else, all this is happening. You know, and that does help you lock in to that higher self. But it comes from the understanding as well that, you know, that you have a mind. Do you know what I mean? You know, you've got to think this stuff into existence. Do you know what I mean? You know, what is it? You know, you create your circumstances, and you did that here. Clearly you created your circumstances. You know, the funny thing is that, you know, you have this dream of joining the army, but then clearly you had to set goals. You know, you had to fill out an application form. You had a goal. If you did not fill out the application form, you're not going. It's just a dream. Do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
you know, like it is fascinating stuff, Joey. You know, it seriously is fascinating stuff. You know, trying to
Yeah.
understand this winner's image and things like this. Like I was earlier this week, you know, I was driving, you know, and you know, I'm listening to some crap. I'm listening to real crap. Do you know what I mean? TikTok live, something or other. Do you know what I mean? I won't get into what it was because it's just stupid. And all it, you know, and I'm thinking, you know, I could be doing so much more. Do you know what I mean? Than listening to this. So I flicked on I went to YouTube and I flicked on Master Key Society and I listened to The Richest Man in Babylon, right? And it was only it was only like The Richest Man in Babylon is a series of publications. Do you know what I mean? And The Richest Man in Babylon is just one section of this whole book. And it was only 20 minutes long, but it was just enough for me to feed my mind with the right thing to come off that and actually literally take action to do the things that I want. And this is what we're talking about when I was talking about at the beginning, this laser guided, this laser focus. I was off track. And then I had to put something else into my head to steer me back on track. And then when I got on track, bang, I was making things happen. I was doing things. I was making phone calls. All the shit that I was putting off 2 hours before, right, was all now happening, you know. But for some, and even for me included when I was younger, you know, that stuff it can get put off for days. It can get put off for weeks. Do you know what I mean? And then nothing happens. So, you know, what you feed in your mind, whether it's through prayer or meditation or visualization, this is why you have to keep that guard on the door. You know, but look, we're all guilty of it. We're all guilty of being distracted by things. But it's when you deliberately put yourself in positions to be distracted. Do you know what I mean? And I did that to myself, you know, and I'm not going to feel bad about it because there's no point. I can't change that I did it, but I can change what I do now. When I recognize I'm doing that, you know, I have to stop and say, God, I could be doing something a little bit more proactive. You know, like even when I was driving down here this morning, I was thinking I could have done this yesterday. I could have sorted this out yesterday. Why am I waiting until today to do this? I could have done this yesterday. Do you know what I mean? Like little things. So I think getting into that higher self place, staying there for a long period of time, that's the challenge, isn't it? To get there and stay there. You know? But, you know, look, you've got to rest sometimes as well. Do you know what I mean? You can't, you know, like sometimes you've got to stop. I was thinking about this the other day. You know, like people are talking about always, you know, trying to get to where you're going. Don't take your foot off the gas. Do you know what I mean? You got to keep going. Yeah, I get that. But, you know, like sooner or later, you're going to have to take a bathroom break, you know, otherwise it's going to get messy. Like if you tried to drive from Sydney to Perth in one go, you're not going to make it.
No.
You need to stop. You need to take a break. You need to put fuel in the car. Which is real. It's one of the things that really annoys me. This is just me, right? You know, driving up the motorway, and I'm thinking, and then my fuel light comes on. And I'm thinking, fucking hell, damn, I've got to stop. All the cars that I overtook now are going to overtake me back, right? So annoying. That is so annoying. So, but had I been prepared, had I been better prepared, I would have filled up before I got on the motorway, and then I would have got to my destination. Do you know what I mean? Like little things like that. So, you know, knowing when to take a break, knowing when to fill the tank, being prepared, all of these things are important, you know. So, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Damn, this stuff is crazy. But
I like you mentioned something about think those things into existence, and you mentioned it in your sharing, and I wrote it down because it's very important because we can go create, you know, our successful image. You know, God has given us the ability. You know, when I first grew up in Sunday school, I thought that God's only the creator, but you know, God put us in this world to be co-creating. You know, and I love because the story of the farmer and the priest come to my mind. Every day the priest drove past the farmer land, and at first, you know, it was only rocks and, you know, bushes and forests, and And then after a few years, the priest drive past, and the farmer have a nice garden, beautiful home, beautiful farm. And then he wanted to stop by and just share his opinion to the farmer. And the priest said to the farmer, "For good Lord have been bless you, my friend, with this beautiful farm." And the farmer said, "Minister, you're so right, but you should see this place when God have it to Himself."
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's very important that we can think about those things into existence, because we have the ability, the power to create a new image of ourselves. Yeah. And we can't be just staying the same image all the time, and it's so true. Sometimes we have to stop and rethink, reassess, where I'm creating or building or carving a right image or not. And then we have to adjust it. Maybe we just need to, adjust the way we look at things, or the way we do things. But it's very important in our journey to realize that we have the ability, we have the power to co-create a different image of ourselves.
It's true, Joey.
And our wife won't do it for us. Our kids won't do it for us. We
Yeah, but
we
you
can
did
do
that.
it.
You
Yeah.
did that for you. When it, you did that for you when it came to starting a business in property. You did that for you, when you decided to join the army.
Yeah.
You did that for you when you decided to stop climbing coconut trees and leave the island and move to Australia. You did
Yeah.
that for you. All of those things
Yeah.
you did for you. And the funny thing is, Joe, that when I think back to when I was living in Manchester, Kate and I were living in Manchester, and we there was an opportunity to move to Ireland and start work with a construction company over here. When the opportunity came up, do you know how long it took to make the decision? About an hour, less than an hour. Like it was fast. We made the decision really fast, and then we moved here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was, and that's the way that things happen. Do you know what I mean? Like you can be, when the opportunity shows up, you act fast. Do you know what I mean? But that's about being in that higher self space, having that belief, that self-confidence, that belief, that self-esteem. Like I look at that, that quote on my wall: "You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." And I'm constantly referring that to me, to how I need to be the change, how I need to change the way that I think for me to grow, and, I'm working on a project at the moment, and this is probably the biggest thing that I've ever done in my life, but in my mind, it's already done, which is the crazy thing. I've never done anything this big before. Do you know what I mean? I don't even know how I'm going to do it. I'm trying to figure it out along the way. Trying to surround myself with people who are, experts in their fields to be able to do this kind of stuff. And I think I've got a few lined up. And now it's about, moving into that next phase. But I don't know how to do it. Do you know what I mean? And I'm relying on other people to help me make this a reality. Do you know what I mean? But just because I don't know how to do it doesn't mean it's going to get done. We're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out. I think we can figure it out. I think it can be done. And I've had to do some things this week, to try and inspire people to take action, which have worked. Do you know what I mean? So these are things that I've had to think about. I've really had to think about, how do I move this in the direction that I want it to go in? And again, it comes back to this missile, being off track, getting it back on track, keeping it focused, and understanding where it is that I'm wanting to go, moving in that direction. And look, don't think for a second that it's easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. Do you know what I mean? Most people aren't doing it. Most people are just, grateful that they've got a paycheck at the end of every month. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But a lot of people, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that want more, but just don't know how to get it. And Joey, it's like you say, It doesn't happen overnight, it happens over time, but it starts with self-education, learning about how you think. Psycho-Cybernetics is a great book to do that. Another great book, Think and Grow Rich, which we know, a more recent book by Dr. Joe Dispenza, How to Break the Habit of Being Yourself, which is almost a reworked version of Psycho-Cybernetics. It gets into the quantum field and everything else, goes a little bit deeper, but it's all fascinating stuff. And you've talked about this before, about that congruency amongst the head and the heart, you know, the thoughts and the feelings, and how those things have to be linked and have to be congruent and have to be, you know, in line for those things to really start happening, for those beliefs to start happening. And you're just a great example of that. Do you know what I mean? You're just a great example with the things that you've done, your property business, your health and wellness business, you know, your army and the stuff that you've done in the army. It's just incredible. And now, of course, you know, you're going to be a speaker at an international company, you know, where you get an opportunity to speak to, you know, hundreds, potentially thousands of people, you know, to share your story. You know, don't be nervous.
All about the winning image, Mike.
I'm telling you, yeah, you know. But listen, you know, don't forget that, you know, dreams without goals are just dreams. Do you know what I mean? You know, like, you're living your dream, you know, and this, you know, this is the really interesting thing. You know, before you had a property business, you dreamed about it. Before you joined the army, you dreamed about it. You know, now you're living your dream. How many people can say that? You know, you're probably in that small group of 5%ers that are doing that. You know, yeah, it's pretty special, Joe. Right, let's watch a couple of these videos and let's see. Right.
Yep.
Discipline. It's the ability to make yourself do what you should do, when you should do it, whether you feel like it or not. Persistence is self-discipline in action. Every time you persist, you build your self-discipline. Every time you practice self-discipline, you build your ability to persist. And the two of them are tied into your self-esteem. So the more you persist, the more you like yourself. And the more you like yourself, the more discipline you have. And the more discipline you have in practice, the more you like yourself. As a result, the more you persist. And eventually you get onto an upward spiral where you become absolutely unstoppable. You reach the point where you know you can achieve the goal and nothing in the world can stop you. And every step that you take forward makes you stronger and stronger and stronger, until finally people say, I know one thing about him, I know one thing about her. You cannot stop him or her. Once they decided they want something, they will not stop until they get it. And when you develop that quality, there will be nothing that is impossible to you.
Do you know, Joey, that is really interesting. Because I think sometimes that scares people, that attitude scares people, right? And I think that's what happened to me last week. You know, one of the people that I was trying to get on my team, I think they were frightened. So I have to write them another email to explain that I'm obviously, you know, I'm being too eager, right? They're afraid of it. You know, I'm not afraid of it. You know, I'm wondering whether they're thinking, you know, like, fucking hell, if this guy can do what you know, are they scared that I might be able to do what I'm saying that I'm gonna do, and maybe they think that they can't keep up with me. Do you know what I mean? You know, like, because there's no reason why you wouldn't want to do this, especially if this is the business that you're in. So, you know, I think that when you have that attitude, and I've said this a lot, Joe, for a long time, especially when I worked in construction. And in fact, to be honest, I've never had a self-confidence problem. You know, growing up, you know, my folks would say, and my cousins and my aunties, they'd say things like, do you know, if you were a bar of chocolate, you'd eat yourself. You love yourself that much, right? So I've never had a problem with self-confidence, and I have always been confident. Do you know, I've always been competitive, you know, and I have a persistence that when I lock onto something, I just want to get it. Do you know? I just want to do it. I don't want to wait. Don't want to go slow. I want to get it now. And you know, when I worked in construction, I think a lot of people thought, you know, you're just a cocky, arrogant, jumped up little shit. Do you know what I mean? You know, because I was only young. I was maybe half the age of everybody else. But I was confident. I was brash. I was bold. Do you know what I mean? And you know, but it was all confidence. You know, it wasn't cockiness. I was confident. I was confident in my ability, you know, but at the same time, I probably didn't have that higher self. I probably didn't even have the best attitude. Do you know what I mean? Because I probably had, do you remember I was saying to you the other week that I had feelings that I was feeling that they thought that I wasn't deserving of my position because of my age. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, and obviously somebody saw that in me, you know, and that's when they gave me the book. You know, The Magic of Thinking Big. Told me to read chapter 2 first, all about a disease called excusitis, where it talks about, you know, the excuse of being too young, being too old, and all this kind of stuff. You know, he could see something in me that I was experiencing that I was, you know, projecting, manifesting in my world. Do you know what I mean? And I was making the excuse of myself that I was too young. Do you know what I mean? You know, no one else was saying it, but I was thinking that they were all thinking it. It wasn't even them, it was me. Do you know what I mean? So until I was able to raise my awareness to that, and, you know, it changed me, it helped me communicate better with me, that all kind of went away, but my confidence didn't go away. I had a calmer confidence about me. Still had the confidence, still was bold, still was brash, still was all those things. But instead of being reactionary, I was more responsive. Do you know what I mean? And my life became easier. My work became easier. My communication with other people became easier. You know, people naturally wanted to work with me rather than fight with me, you know? And, you know, it was a much, much easier thing to do. So there's no doubt that, you know, understanding that self-image and understanding, you know, who you are, this is what you're talking about, you know, like all these things are important, and you can only do that through self-study. You know, you have to look at yourself. You have to look at yourself in the mirror. I hear people talking about this all the time. You know, look yourself in the mirror. You know, I remember 30 years ago, I used to do an exercise. I was told to do an exercise. Look in the mirror and smile at yourself. You know, and you'll find out what you like, what you really think of yourself. Do you know what I mean? You'll find out what you really think, because you've got these little voices in your head. Do you know what I mean? A good one and a bad one. Do you know what I mean? They're always, you know. And when you stand in front of the mirror and you smile, a lot of times you hear back, "What have you got to smile about? Things are shit right now." Do you know what I mean? You've got all these problems. You've got all this. You've got all that. You know, and you have to capture that and say, yeah, okay, so I've got all these things going on, but I've got these great things going on too. I've got these amazing things that are happening, you know, and be able to redirect your energy to be able to move in those directions. Because if I'm not redirecting my energy to move in a direction that I want to go in, you know, I'm that captainless ship then, you know, on the oceans, you know, where I'm allowing fate and circumstance to guide me to wherever that is, you know.
Absolutely.
So, you know, you do have to be disciplined, have to be persistent, you know, in thinking about it. Yeah, and of course, Bob talks in that video about guts and goals. Do you know what I mean? It fucking does take guts and goals.
Yeah.
It does. It does. And you're a great example of that. You know, like you really are. Like, you know, I love hearing your story, you know, about how you got to where you are. And I know you're not even halfway there yet. Do you know what I mean? You're still
Just getting started.
Exactly. Get it done. Right.
Yeah.
Let's watch some more of these. Let's have a look. And then we'll get your thoughts.
Mike, before you go there, you know, I just wanna share something that, you know, from the last video. Is that Brian Tracy? Yeah. Tracy. You know, very, very good mentor. And if you're watching this, you know, follow his stuff, you know, read his book. You know, he's got a lot of information. Great coach, great mentor, great trainer. And you know, he's old now, but you know, still gigging, still doing the adding value to people. Persistent, the word persistent, you know, the first thing come to mind if you read the book Think and Grow Rich, they define persistent is another word for faith. So, you know, I like how Brian Tracy you know, define it is persistent is discipline in action. So no matter what you do, you just keeping showing up because you have persistence, you have faith. And I share that in my journey. Sometimes I face adversity, challenging, and a lot of stumbling block in my journey. But the reason why I'm still there, I'm still going, because I have faith and I have persistence. And it's come with a lot of discipline. It doesn't happen overnight, but it's happened over time, because if you stay longer in doing the same thing and repeat it, review your action, review your activity, unfortunately, something will click and then, you took off.
Exactly. And but that is part of it, Joey. Do you know what I mean? That stickability, having the ability to continue. Like I remember years and years ago, someone telling me, just do one thing every day that's going to move you closer to that thing you want. Just do one thing every day. Like, because, like we talk about the compound effect, and your confidence grows through doing it. Like, you don't go to the gym, today and expect to be 50 pounds, lighter tomorrow and like ripped. Do you know what I mean? When you wake up in the morning, you're gonna have to be consistent. You're gonna have to be disciplined. You're gonna have to, work at it, work on it. In fact, one of the things that I talk about, whenever we're bringing on somebody new, I always talk about you want to be working on it, not in it. Because if you're working in it, you're in it. You don't want to be in it. You want to be on it. You want to be working on it. And that's important. Like, because you can get lost in the weeds. You've talked about this, Joey. When you're in it, you can get lost in the weeds, and you've got to be on it. Not in it. But again, look, each to their own. Right, let's watch this next one, and we'll see.
Is by refusing to stop. It's not a quality that you develop in a week or a month, or by reading or listening to something inspiring. It's a habit of mind and character that you develop by practicing.
Let me just start this again here, because I don't know what's on. It's not playing properly. Let's have a look.
Unstoppable is by refusing to stop. It's not a quality that you develop in a week or a month, or by reading or listening to something inspiring. It's a habit of mind and character that you see. The way that you become unstoppable is by refusing to stop. It's not a quality that you develop in a week or a month, or by reading or listening to something inspiring. It's a habit of mind and character that you develop by practicing the quality of persistence over and over in every circumstance until it locks in and becomes a permanent part of your character.
That's so interesting, and I do like Brian Tracy, I really do. And another guy I like, Stephen Covey, his book, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. That is a great book. If you've not read it, or, but listening to Brian Tracy, he's so calm, when he's talking about it. And it is about creating that character. This is what I'm talking about, Joe, right? If you're acting, walking, talking like that person that you want to become, it is character shifting. And most character changes come from things that really bad happen to us. Do you know what I mean? Something really bad happens, I don't know, it could be anything. And you're so kind of sad, or you're so upset about it and everything else. It could be somebody hurt your feelings or something like this, or said something to you and it really upset you, Or in fact, one of the young ladies that works in my organization, her and her husband, his mother passed away, and just recently. And I was saying how I knew how they felt. I felt the same way. My mum passed away just a couple of years ago, and it can be challenging. I said, but you have to get on with life. Do you know what I mean? You can't change it. Death is part of life. And she was like, yeah, no, we totally get it. But one of her husband's cousins, their mother passed away a few years ago, and they never got over it. Never. And it literally shifted that person's character. to where they formed this new habit of that they were just so down and so blue all of the time, literally all of the time. They're just so sad, you know, and it's been years and they've formed this new character. Now, if you reverse that and you're focused on becoming this person and shocking yourself into walking, talking, and acting like that person, and being that way and acting that way every day, even before, we talked about it before, Joe, you have to become that person before you get you get all the rewards that person achieves and gets. And, you know, so you have to be that way. I was talking with a good friend of ours yesterday, Heather King, you know Heather, right? I rang her up. She's like, oh, I'm in Spain. I said, what are you doing in Spain? She said, oh, I just decided to come with my mum on Friday. I said, she's like, oh my God. I'm like, oh, that's amazing. I said, you're living like a millionaire. She says, I feel like a millionaire. Right. So, but isn't it about having that feeling? You know? And yeah, she took her grandson with her, stayed in a 5-star all-inclusive hotel. And she said it was just really a test to find out how my mum was going to get on by herself. Do you know what I mean? Because her mum's going to take a trip later in the year. Mum's really in her 90s. So, but Heather was really enjoying it, and she was enjoying, you know, and it was all spur of the moment stuff, just a spontaneous kind of trip. You know, how wonderful is it to be able to do that? Just say, hey, listen, we're going, and have the money to be able to do it, and feeling good about it. Do you know what I mean? So, like, there's no doubt, you know, you have to be in the mindset to do it. And the more and more we talk about this stuff, Joe, it does seem to come down to mindset, doesn't it? It does seem to come down to, you know, creating these new rituals or habits that turn into, you know, character traits, that turn into just things that you naturally do, you know? Like,
Absolutely.
You hear about people who are born leaders. You know, they weren't born leaders, you know, they were just put in positions where they had to stand up. And they learn. And I think maybe I was a little bit the same, you know, like, you know, 17, having my own 8-man gang in construction. It's what I wanted to do because I saw my dad doing it. I love my dad. My dad's my hero. So I wanted to do that. So I was able to do it. And then seeing someone else come out onto site in his BMW, and I'm saying to my dad, you know, who's he? I want that. I want to do that. You know, and my dad's saying, we don't get jobs like that, son. And then less than 2 years later, I've got that job. You know, like I was never a born leader. I was, you know, but goals.
Goal achiever.
Goals. I'm a serial winner, Joey, just like you.
And
I'm not ashamed to say it, you know? Like everybody has the ability. Everybody has the opportunity. Everybody has, you know? Like, you know, am I prepared to take more risks than anybody else? I'm prepared to get laughed at more than anybody else. I'm prepared for more people to say no to me than anybody else. You know, I'm not bothered about that. I'll live to fight another day. You know, and the fact that I have no fear around that stuff. Like if you know, if I lost it all tomorrow, I know that I could get it back. It would take me a lot less time.
Absolutely.
You know, so right, let's go on to the next one, and we'll have a little listen and see.
I think the price of winning is too high. Wait till you get the bill from regret. And that bill from regret is generational.
It's discipline over motivation. Motivation's a small thing that can last 2 minutes or an hour. If you've got discipline, you're willing to do it every single day of your life. And knowing that it's going to take so long to do it, you just get up and do it. You don't even think about motivation.
Discipline, I will make myself do the thing. Motivation, I want to do the thing. Obsession, I can't not do the thing. Discipline is relatively easy to engineer. Motivation is tough but can be engineered. And obsession is impossible to engineer. You cannot engineer obsession.
I talked about discipline equals freedom. That the hard work, the doing the right thing. Wake up and do the things that you're supposed to do.
You see, I'm curious, Joey. I'm curious now, right? Because, you know, I can look at my life, right? I can, you know, and I know what I've done and everything else like this. Yeah, I was obsessed about becoming a foreman. I was obsessed about becoming a a site agent. I was obsessed about, getting up those ranks in construction. So I know, but it wasn't, a thought in a sense of, it was just like, I'm obsessed to do it. It was just always on that action. I think about you, your brain must have switched on at some stage, because I can only talk, because I did that coming from school. Do you know what I mean? Right? You grew up in a boarding school, and of course you're watching the airplanes go over. It was an obsession for you from an early age that you were going to go somewhere someday. Do you know what I mean? But then the decision was made. Then you made a conscious decision, right? Move to Australia, working 3 jobs, all this kind of other stuff, living exactly the same as me. It's exactly the same as me, right? You're doing what you think you should be doing, right? Like when you had those 3 jobs, you were obsessed about getting the first job, obsessed about getting the second job, and then obsessed with the church and all these other things that are going on. This was just life. We all get obsessed with our lives. I was obsessed with my life, and I was having success. You were obsessed with your life. You were having success, And then, for me, it was just a decision. It was just a realization that I wasn't even living my life. I was doing what I was programmed to do. Right? You have this trigger event that happens in your life, and you realize there's a better life for me. Just the same way, I'm not living my life. There's got to be something better for me to do. And I think that when you make that, when you become aware of the situation that you're in and how you've created all of this situation, and this is where you're at. Like, I wasn't where you were at. I wasn't lying in a hospital bed or anything else. But when I left construction, I was the same as everybody else. Like, I had success, Joe. Nice cars, nice house, all that stuff. But once I left construction, there was no money coming in. I had nothing. And it wasn't long before I was going to be broke. And I didn't know what I was going to do. So I wasn't in a hospital bed or anything else like that. But I might as well have been lying next to you. I was broken, completely broken, And the funny thing is that it's in them moments that you get to rebuild your life from the bottom up. You really do. You get to choose to be who you want to be. You get to choose to become and reinvent yourself, just like you did. And you invented yourself in such a way which is incredible. Property, army, all of these different things. Do you know what I mean? And it's absolutely mind-blowing. And, you're obsessed with it before, and now you're just obsessed in a different direction.
Yeah.
Most of us stay on that original obsession. Home to work, home to work, home to work, home to work, holiday every now and again, home to work, holiday every now and again, home to work, maybe get a promotion, and they stay on that path. They're obsessed with it. And they're obsessed with coming home and watching the telly in the evening, or watching a football match, or watching sport, or watching the Masters, or, and occasionally they're nice things to do. Do you know what I mean? But, when you're obsessed with designing your own life, as you are, right? How can you not be? You're going to stand on a stage on May 2nd, right? That doesn't happen to everybody. So you're obsessed with designing this new life. And it's incredible to see how much you've done so far in such a short space of time. It's just incredible. I love it. So there's no doubt about it. This being obsessed stuff. And it is, I think I'm starting to realize that I'm already obsessed, and I already have the habits that I need. I just need to be doing them more often. Do you know what I mean? I need to be plugged in, switched on more often. Like sometimes we leave the office and we forget to turn the lights off. Sometimes I forget to turn the lights on in here. Do you know what I mean? We're not switching it on enough.
True.
Anyway, right. What are your thoughts? And we're going to watch one more video, and then we're going to get your final thoughts on the whole thing about discipline and persistence. How about that?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Let's have a listen.
days, we want you to keep your mind on what you want and keep it off of what you don't want. Keep your conversation on what you want. Keep your conversation off of what you don't want. Keep your dreams, your imagination, your thoughts, your feelings, everything in your environment consistent with what you desire, and keep it off of what you don't want. It's very simple. Now, why do we pick 21 days? Well, a very good reason. You see, it takes 21 days for a chicken that has a brain the size of a pea to sit patiently, calmly, faithfully on an egg to hatch the egg. Now, we feel that if a chicken with a little brain like that can sit on an egg for 21 days without seeing any change, just in faith, for 21 days it can sit there on that egg, then we could probably ask adults who have brains that are the size of 3 pounds, that have 12 to 20 billion cells, and have the capacity to remember and retain all the knowledge known to man, if their brain could be tapped, we ask them to keep at it for 21 days. If you will go on a positive mental attitude diet for 21 days, keep your mind on it, the goal is to become what we call a purely positive person. Because we know that if you're a purely positive person, if your conversations, your acts, and your relationships are purely positive, what we call a PPP person, and you practice that for 21 days, you will find that your life will change.
That is so true. That is so true. PPP, purely positive person. And of course, look, I'm excited to hear what Joey's going to say. Joey's going to wrap it up. And of course, we're going to get Joey's final thoughts on episode 137, Discipline and Persistence, the two engines of success. You know, we could throw on a turbo or a supercharger with self-image on top of that as well. But listen, Joe, I'm excited to hear what you've got to say about discipline and persistence, and more importantly, the difference that it can make in someone's life. You know, right? Far away, go. Let me hear it.
Thank you, Mike, and thank each and every one of you that watching this, whether it's currently or in replay. You know, God bless you, and you know, there must be a reason why you in this podcast, or you stumble in this work. You know, a few years ago we decided to do this, and it's all come from our heart. We get out of our mind, our brain, and come serve from our heart, because we know what we have been blessed with through our story, our experience, our journey, our success, our failure will definitely help someone out there. And tonight is there's no doubt in our mind that the ideas of being look at your self-image is all come from our mind. And our mind is, you know, we've been share about it a long time ago, and a few times, that it's the activity that happen around, you know, in our brain, and it's connected to our heart, which is our feeling, and then our feeling make us to move in a direction that getting us close to where we want to achieve or our result. So everything starts from our mind. And if you take a really look at yourself, you have to really think, am I the person that I want to be 1 year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years or 20 years from now? And I think it's all come and it's all start from what you think about all day long. If you think about you want to change your health, and you want to change your career, you want to change your wealth, you want to change your finance, you want to change your lifestyle, but it doesn't come from inside, which is Bob Proctor talk about in our video every day, every time we have our program. It's got to come from inside, and you know when it's come from inside, it's when it's connected, you know, what is in your mind connected with what in your heart, that's your feeling, and you emotionally attached to that ideas, you will go out no matter what. And that's what persistent and discipline come. You know, persistent, as I shared with you before earlier, it's another word for faith. And the reason why a lot of people, you know, go out and go beyond, you know, the limit of, you know, everyone thinks that we can't do, because they have faith. They have faith that if they keep showing up, keep doing the work, and keep serving and keep giving and keep contributing, it will turn up for the better of them, and it will turn out to be a winning for them. And we know that the people who have discipline, who constantly, do simple things every single day, will move them closer to where they want to go. And discipline is another word for definition of discipline that we found from learning from Bob Proctor is you tell yourself a command and you follow through. Discipline is not telling yourself that I'm going to wake up early in the morning, go for a walk, and the alarm went off and you still lay in bed. That's not discipline. Discipline, you make a commitment to yourself. You tell yourself your command and you said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to build a business. I'm going to invest in something. I'm going to, contribute and give back to my country. I'm going to be, helping my family. And you, every single day, you do something that you follow through from that command. So, and we talk about different kind of, persistent, faith, discipline, and you get to a point, obsession. Obsession is no matter what happened, you just do it anyway. And I think I got this from one of my mentor. He said, if you struggle in life, do it anyway. If you feel cold, do it anyway. If you feel up in the morning, you're tired, do it anyway. And I think if I can wrap up tonight with our program tonight, with persistence and discipline, just do it anyway, because you will see the result. You will become a winner person. Because no matter what happened, you just do it anyway, because you know it in your heart, you know it in your mind, and it's connected to your heart and your activity. No matter what the world tells you, you will hear a lot of no's. You will hear a lot of objection. And like my good friend Mike, I'm not here to take the easy road. I'm here to get more no's. I'm here to get more objection, because I know it will move me closer. It will make us better. It will make you stronger. The adversity in life, Napoleon Hill talk about it. It comes with a seed to create something, to success. Sometimes we get stuck in the weed, and we don't develop our muscle by discipline and persistent and obsess. And when little things come in our way, and the small dog, we get stuck in the weed. We got freeze. We got stop. We got don't show up. And I think one thing that I learned in my journey as a winner image and a successful person is the ability to moving forward when the world say you can't do it. Because like it's going back to my sharing in regard to our faith, when you have God, you have everything in life. And you are not alone in the journey. You have something bigger than the universe, than the everything that we have in life to be with you on the journey. So decide. And I think that's a very important word. Decide that you're gonna do and become a winner person. Decide and develop that winner image in your mind. Whether you wake up every morning and ask for a little help from God, or do a meditation, visualize it, and like my good friend Mike said, those things you have to bring it in reality by the way you think, by the way you meditate, by the way you visualize yourself. You see yourself on top of the mountain. You see yourself the business that I'm gonna build. It's already done. It's already happened. You don't know. You don't need to know how. All you have to need to know is you already done it, and all your action, your emotion will link together and join arm together to get you the energy, to get you the inspiration, to get you the power, to get you the uplifting spirit, the entrepreneur spirit to go after what you really want. And no matter what your peers, your family, your loved one will say to you, in your heart they love you, but they don't see what you see, because the most rewarding thing that you're gonna end up knowing that you were born to be a winner. You were born to be rich. You were born to be abundance. You were born to be have prosperity in life. And the people who look at you and think that you come from a small island, you come from a poor family, average family, and you can't make it in life, that's their own opinion. It's important that you aware of those opinions, but don't buy their story, don't buy their opinion, because there's a lot of opinion in this world. And I think, like one of the video they watched tonight, the price of winning is too high. The price of winning, everything worthwhile in life, you have to understand there's a price to pay. When I joined the army, I understand I have to pay the price. When I decided to invest in real estate, I understand I have to pay the price, and I have to learn some skill. I have to develop a network, develop a team, find the right people, surround myself with the right. Same when I decided to become an entrepreneur, build an online business in health and wellness. The price is to winning, the commitment, the show up, the discipline to keep moving forward when everyone drop off, when everyone don't, go back to their comfortable zone, and you just keep moving forward, because when the bill of regret is far more outweighed than everything that you do. One of my great motivation in life, and I have to finish with it. When I learn about my journey and my goals and my ambition in life, I will definitely have persistence, have faith, and I definitely need to be disciplined, and I need to keep moving forward in life, because I know that one day I will look back and maybe retiring, maybe dying, knowing that I fulfill what I was thinking about and dream about, then live with regret that I wish I do that. I wish. And I have come across a lot of friends, a lot of family members. You can hear the language. They said, I wish I do it when I have the energy. I wish I do it when I was in your age. And I think in one of my posts this week, I wrote a post about our mind is just like a garden. And another post that I share, that my daughter asked me, if you what did you do in your 20s? And I think, my opinion for my daughter and everyone that follow my journey, in your 20, you have the world. You have the world to build the foundation of your life, your future, your legacy, because you have the energy, you have the all the time in the world. I think myself and Mike we're looking for someone to buy back the time that we lost. But in life, you gotta have the awareness that this is where I am, no matter what. Look back or look up or look down. You have to know where you are and decide. When you decide what you really want in life, and it has to come from inside, and just whatever is in your mind, get out of it, connect it to your heart, and moving forward. Keep moving forward. Show some resilience, persistent. Keep showing up when others not showing up. Keep turning up when no one is watching. Keep doing the right thing when no one is watching, and keep moving forward, because one day you look back and you pat on yourself and pat on your back, and thanks for the person that you become on the journey. Because the most rewarding things myself and Mike realize in whatever we decided to do in life is the person that we become. We need a microscope to look back at the start of our journey, from very young age until now, because we're a totally different person from years and years ago. So, Mike, thank you very much for the opportunity to share with our audience tonight. I hope they're getting value. I hope they get inspired. I hope they get motivated and uplifting to go out and live their life. And I think someone told me the abbreviation for goal is go out and live. So if you can get something out of this, our wish for you to take action, decide and connect it to your heart feel emotion about it. By how can you do that? By learning, reading books, listen to good quality podcasts or audio, YouTube, motivation or self-help. That will inspire you to connect your heart to the way you think, and then you go out and do whatever you can through persistence and discipline, so that one day you're gonna look back and say, I'm glad I make a decision and I do action and I get there.
Wonderful, Joey. Thank you so much. And don't forget what Joey says. Life is not about achieving happiness. Life is about happily achieving. That's the way to do it, And listen, don't forget to go and check out Joey at the Elevate meeting. October, May 2nd. Don't forget you buy tickets. Just reach out, get in touch. Happy to show you where you can get that information. And don't forget, listen, you've been watching episode 137, Freedom, Health and Lifestyle, Discipline and Persistence, the Twin Engines of Success. Listen, we've laid it all out here. There's lots of things you can do. Get that book, Psycho-Cybernetics, Think and Grow Rich, The Magic of Thinking Big. There's lots of stuff out there that can put you on that journey to freedom, health and lifestyle and beyond, whatever it is that you really want. But listen, thank you for joining. Thank you for sharing. We will see you next week. My name is Mick McQuillan, and it's a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you, Joey. I always appreciate you. See you later.
Thank you, Mike.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to play out with the video. Hold on, what am I doing? I want to watch the video. I want to watch my video at the end.
You see, we are created in a magnificent vibration, in an absolutely magnificent vibration. Born risk takers. Free. That conditioning takes place after birth. You can change it. It takes guts. It takes goals. Do you know something? You're sitting there watching this and you're thinking, by God, I'm going to change something. I always say, keep reminding yourself that you have tremendous reservoirs of potential within you, and therefore you are quite capable of doing anything you set your mind to. You really can. I don't care what the cynics tell you. Quit listening to some of your peers. Now, all you must do is figure out how you can do it, not whether you can or not. When are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? You've got to create a sense of urgency. I'm going to do it right now.
If you can see it, you can do it. But the beautiful truth is you can do anything. We got to know there is a place. There is a specific frequency. And if you get on that frequency, you're going to attract what you need to you. This is what it's all about. Why have you been endowed with such awesome powers? If you'll make a committed decision, this I'm going to do. And you don't have to know how. You do not have to know how. The second you make the committed decision, you flip your brain onto the frequency that you have to be on to attract what you have to attract to manifest the thing that you want. If you can see it, you can do it. It's got to be something you want. Wants come from inside. Act like you're already there. Walk, talk, speak, live like you're already there. Don't set a small goal. Don't set something that doesn't really wind your stem. Set it so big it jazzes you. It really gets you going. When something of a very high nature resonates with the very high side of you, you'll know it. You'll know it. You will feel it. Feeling is conscious awareness of vibration. The only prerequisite, do you want it? Not do you need it, not could you do it. The only prerequisite is, do you want it? Take the lid off your marvelous mind and dream. For goodness sake, give yourself the right to do that. Get your analytical mind out of the way. Put it in your pocket for a while. All you're doing is exploring, daydreaming. What did Lawrence say? All men dream, but not equally. Those who dream by night in the dusty recesses of their mind waken the day to find that it was vanity. But the dreamers of the day are dangerous men.
for they may act their dream with open eyes to make it possible. This I did.